Hello and welcome to this lecture on Adobe Illustrator by Eduonix Technologies. In this lecture we're going to be drawing a picture with Illustrator using all of the techniques, or at least most of them, that we've learned so far. So this is kind of like a review and kind of to show you what you can do with some of the basic tools, since all the examples I've been giving are really simple. You know, how to make an octagon, how to get rid of individual anchor points. This will be combining everything we already know. So first off is we're going to be creating just a circle. We're going to do the petals first, and you can choose whatever color you like. I'm going to pick this orange-yellow gradient and put it on my stroke or on my fill here. I have a none for stroke, or actually I'm going to pick a dark orange. So, and you can color this, whatever you want. It's all pretty much about the shapes, but definitely color it something because that's part of the process, part of the learning. So let's start out with just a circle. And I'm going to turn pixel preview off. It seems to be on by default. So just with this circle, I'm going to select this bottom anchor point and drag it out. So what I'm doing now is creating my petals. So now I'm going to take the Convert Anchor Point tool, which is Shift-C, and I'm going to click on this bottom anchor. Now that I have that there, I'm going to take it and Control-C, Control-F to paste it in front. Notice I was copying it and pasting it in front, so now I have an identical copy right in front of the original. And I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees by pressing E to bring up free transform, holding in Shift so I can get an even angle, and rotating it till that little gray box says 180 degrees. I'm going to drag this down to where it locks in. These two anchors are locked into place right now. Or they're not locked in, but they overlap each other. Smart guys told me that. Before I go any further though, I'm going to want to change the direction of this gradient. Should have done this in the beginning, but sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of difference, because these will be slightly different. And actually, I'm going to reverse this. So there's this button in the gradient panel, reverse gradient. You can actually take this one with the eyedropper tool. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to copy them, paste them in front once again. It's Control-C, Control-F. I'm going to hit E, transform, and I'm going to keep doing this until I have, I'm still holding in Shift to get that constraint angle, until I have a full group of petals. At the very end, I have to let go so I can get an angle somewhere between 45, maybe about 21.5. But I'm just going to use my eyes and see where those blue lines are before I let go. So I have a little bit of overlap there, but that's alright. Now, everything is should be, if you're using your smart guides to snap everything in place. This anchor should be the bottom of every petal, so it should be perfectly centered. This is going to be the center of the flower. And I'm going to make this probably kind of like a brown and dark brown gradient. So I'm going to use the color guide because it's going to give me a lot of different versions of shades and everything. I can drag these right up onto my gradient to make it. So I got kind of like a brown, and I'm just going to go with this almost black here. It's 90% black. Change that to radial. I'm going to move it out a little bit. So this is going to be pretty basic. What I like to do is to save like a copy, I'll drag it out here with holding an Alt so that it makes a copy of it, just in case I want to go back, because this stuff gets printed. It's nice. So I'm going to group everything. Right now, if we look at the layers panel, you can see it's all kind of crazy. I'm going to group everything kind of logically. I can actually go to select same fill color for this guy. I'm going to group that so all my petals are together. I'm going to group these together. And this is my spare flower. I'm just going to drag this up to a new layer. Go ahead and hide this one. So it's there if I need it, but it's not going to distract me. Alright, so anyway, with everything grouped together, I'm going to transform it. Just to give it a little bit of an angle. A little smaller because it's going to have to have a stem and there's going to have to be some ground in the background. Now to make it look a little bit more natural, I'm going to give it an envelope distort, make with warp, Alt Shift Control W. If you want to go that far. Turn on preview and just play around with it until you get what I like. Expand that, and just to give it a little perspective, I'm going to hit E. I'm going to drag this out with Alt, Shift, and Control selected. So there, it looks a little bit more natural now. Now I'm going to just draw a stem, but before I do that, I want to make sure my fidelity is up nice and high, around 3 pixels, smoothness around 10% or up to 15, I would say. Because it depends on what you're using. If you're using a mouse, you don't want it to smooth it out considerably unless you're really good with it. So, the lower you turn that setting, the more exact it's going to be. It'll pick up every little shape. As you know, mice can be kind of unpredictable as it is. So I just drew a small green line, and I'm going to make that really thick with the stroke to the point where it's about as thick as a stem. And I'm going to take it and go up to Object, Expand to make it into a solid shape. Now here's the tricky part. I'm going to use Gradient Mesh, and this is a new tool. So if you go over here, there's a tool called the Mesh tool. I'll click on that, and it's going to bring up, when you have a shape selected, by the way, it's going to bring up this little cursor. How the Gradient Mesh works is it creates a mesh based on where you click. So I'm going to click on the left and right side, just inset a little bit. And I'm going to select these two anchors it created. I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. I'll go into the Gradient Mesh tool in more detail. But for right now, just kind of follow along what I did just there, and you'll get a shape kind of like this. So you'll be able to see it a little better on the leaves that I'm about to draw. And I'm going to do that with the pencil tool because I can correct my drawings after I'm done and because I have the smoothness turned up. So for instance, that would be more like this, and more like this. If you remember from the pencil tutorial, how you can start on the line and you can just do whatever you want and end, and it'll change the line. So I'm going to make a gradient mesh out of this, but before I do that, I'm going to close the shape. First I make it a solid color, then I'll take the gradient mesh tool. Now as you can see, it created all these points inside of the actual shape. I'm going to take my lasso tool and just the whole thing selected. I'm just going to deselect the points I don't want to be colored. And I'm going to make the other ones a bit darker of a green. Nothing too fancy right now. I'm actually going to make these a lighter green so that it blends in with my plant better. So the next thing would be to create some ground. I'm going to put my rectangle over the artboards, which you would do in any case that you would have something going one side to the other. You wouldn't just put it from here to here. You would make it overlap. Using the color picker to get a nice brown color here, and I'm going to hit Control-Shift left bracket to send it all the way to the back. So now that I've drawn that ground, I'm going to want to move this shape. And what I've done is I've just used the lasso to select the bottom. And notice how I did that over this, but I didn't select any of the anchor points, so it didn't select the background. And I can actually transform this so that it's straight. It's going to make it look weird for a second, but I'm going to drag it back over. So what I did is I turned it with the transform tool, and since it's so long, I had to actually drag it back over. So it was like this, turned it, and then I dragged it back over. So now it's kind of straight, looks more like it's coming out of the ground. And like I said, this is just real basic. I'm explaining everything as I go. So for this is going to be like a sky gradient. And to do that, I'm going to look in my gradients, and you might not have the same ones I have, but let's see. Gradients, sky. I think I actually got this one, a gradient pack online. So I'm going to use a real simple one. It's just a white and a light blue. The white's usually on the bottom of the sky. So like I said, this is a real simple illustration. Probably the last thing I'm going to do, since this was so simple, I'll do it at the end, is change my layers around. I clicked on the background and the earth, and I'm going to drag that down to here, and I'm going to call that background. And I'm going to call this flower. So there we've used about most of the tools that we've learned so far. If you wanted to create a shadow, take this, what you have that's already existing, paste it so you can use it again. I'm just going to turn this. And it's totally okay to have stuff going completely off the artboards. I'm going to make the color like a kind of darkish gray. And I'm going to put a blur on it in Effect, Gaussian blur. And we actually haven't gotten into effects yet, but I'm sure you already know about that. Kind of one of the more fun parts about Illustrator. Just work this until it looks right. So yeah, I could go on and on with this flower, but just keeping it simple for right now. So there you have it. It's a simple flower. We'll be doing more tutorials throughout, or more illustrations throughout, and this is just to practice what we've learned so far. So you can probably go in here and use, because there's a lot more that we've covered, you can probably go in and do even more with this, and I encourage you to do that. But since I'm trying to keep these a certain amount of length, that's the end of this tutorial. So thanks for watching.